if you want to talk to Tim Kurkjian, we are delighted to have him around for another season. Do you think, Tim Kurkjian, that Trey Wingo looks like a bird of prey? He does look like a bird of prey, does he not? Do you think that Will Kane looks like the guy in a whitening toothpaste commercial who can't believe the results after only 2 weeks? If you have any baseball questions for Tim Kurkjian, 786-456-4837, what are the odds against the first pitch of the Marlins season being the opposing team hitting a home run? What are the odds against that?
Well, Dan, we've been playing, 140 years. It's only happened one other time, and I remembered it. Dwight Evans, 1986, hit the first pitch off of Jack Morris of the baseball season for a homer, and then Ian Happ did it yesterday. So in 140 years, it's happened twice. Just amazing. And I heard your reaction to that. It was so bad. That was so funny.
Well, yeah, we heard it in real time. Let's just play this. Yeah, let's let Tim Kurkjian giggle for a second because
Timmy, the only way to get through this season is by laughing at it.
Yes,
That's it.
this Marlins season. This is what happened live on our radio as we went out to Super Marlins fan Billy Gill reporting live from the stadium. All right.
And the windup and the pitch. Oh, God, a home run on the first pitch of the game. Oh, my God.
Welcome, Derek Jeter, and that concludes our Marlins coverage for the season. It's unbelievable.
Now, Timmy, did you notice, like we all did, that Dan, once he realized that ball was going out, he just knocked Billy out of the way?
Yeah, that I hogged the moment there, that Guillermo was gave us a great home run call, and I trampled it.
Well, I didn't see it. I just heard it, and it made me laugh because when Dan yells like that, it's usually pretty funny. That was an amazing thing yesterday, and it was an amazing day in baseball. But, I mean, that was not a good way to start the season. But if you're a Cub fan, it's like, all right, good things are ahead.
All right.
Yeah, Billy's pretty funny, too.
Rick, you're on with Kurkjian. Go ahead.
Hey, Tim, I'm such a big fan of Ichiro and Wade Boggs growing up. Where do you place him as one of the top hitters of all time, especially in a 5-year period? Because Wade Boggs from 83 to 88 just dominated the hit scene, along with Tony Gwynn. Thanks.
Yeah, I think Tony Gwynn was better than Ichiro. I think Tony Gwynn was better than Wade Boggs. I think Wade Boggs was better than Ichiro, but Ichiro was stunningly great for 5 years. But Wade Boggs' on-base percentage, the walks and everything else made him a greater offensive player, even than Ichiro, who was absolutely phenomenally great. Don't get me wrong, but we're talking about two of the great hitters of all time in Boggs and Gwynn, and during their greatest stretches, Boggs especially was on base all the time, 300 times a year.
You have been somebody in journalism, Tim, who's really rare in that you evolve with the advancement. So you're a guy who understands the advanced metrics. Is there a guy, as you were learning the advanced metrics, where you thought he was one kind of good, and then you learned what on-base and slugging and all these other things were, and you said, oh, wait a minute, this guy I thought was really good at baseball was actually not as good as I thought he was?
Not as good. Well, first off, from the other side, George Brett was somebody I always understood. I like to think what on-base percentage was, and when you're driving in a run per game, he's driving in 118 runs in 118 games, things like that. I think I always appreciated that, but George Brett was even better than I thought he was when I went back and looked at some things with a slightly different look. And, yes, there are other guys who maybe aren't as good. You know, Tony Gwynn, for instance, as great as I just told you he was, he didn't walk that much. He didn't hit for much power, but he also didn't strike out 40 times in a season. He was a great right fielder.
The reason I asked you the question is these guys you mentioned as the greatest hitters of all times, Boggs, Ichiro, Tony Gwynn, they're not as valuable today as they were then. All of them, right? Because they don't walk enough. Ichiro swings at everything, too.
Right. Boggs' value would be greater today, Dan, I believe, with what he did because of the times he reached base. And, yes, Ichiro's value would not have been the same today as it was back then. General managers would have looked at him and said, really good player, but without getting on base through a walk once in a while, that hurts him a little bit. But to say that he wouldn't, he wouldn't rate today, that's ridiculous. That game plays anytime.
So Tony Gwynn is overrated.
That's right.
No, Tony Gwynn is not overrated.
He's underrated?
Sounded that
Is
way.
he underrated?
Sounded that
Is he
way.
overrated or underrated?
He was underrated as a hitter. And here's where we are.
Overrated as a walker.
Yes, but Dan, here's where we are in today's game, and this is important. A team hired a scientist to look at exit velocity, among other things. This is the sabermetric world we live in. And that scientist finding, among other things, was Tony Gwynn was not a great hitter. He was a lucky hitter because his exit velocity wasn't as good as that of many others.
What?
Yes, Dan.
What?
He got lucky 3,300 times. He was a freaking magician at the plate with that bat. And if anyone looks and says, geez, his exit velocity was a little bit down, I am going to scream. We're taking this sometimes way too far. To not appreciate what Tony Gwynn could do with a bat in his hand is just to not understand the game on any level.
Does Travis Kelce look like a guy in an electric beard trimmer commercial?
Dan, I haven't listened to the show in so long because I've been on a field for spring training from 10 to 1 every day for 6 weeks. Just tell me the Vlade Divac, please.
The Vlade Divac, he looks like sleep deprivation. Yeah, he does. Limited Fake Lou Holtz, you're on ESPN Radio. Limited Fake Lou Holtz.
Hey, Dan, Stu, how are we doing this morning, guys? You guys are just doing a superb job down there in Miami, and I just wanted to say the refugees in the shipping container, they're phenomenal, too. You guys have a great weekend.
Tim, does Brian Cashman look like your dad's friend, Greg?